Yan versus Andrade. Number one contenders match. Yan just won. Yan is fighting for the title. Hold on. Hold this thought. I got to hear this real quick. Joe Rogan's interviewing Yan. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Joe Rogan just asked Yan about the possibility of fighting in a title match and making it an all-China match. How does she feel about that? Now, make sure you understand. That's helpful. That's a big clue. That's a big clue leaning towards that was a number one contenders match. Make sure that you understand when Joe Rogan asked in this exact scenario, when Joe Rogan asked Yan how she feels about fighting for a title, there is nothing that she can say, no emotion she can invoke, because Joe's not actually asking her. When Joe asks her what she thinks and how she feels, he's actually asking you. That's the response that they're looking to hear from. Now, I got to call this out because nowhere in the galaxy has it ever been said that that was the number one contenders match until that match was going. They were past the Harley-Davidson check-in center. They were into the octagon and the cage door was shutting before the announcer team started talking about the winner of this fight's going to go and fight for the belt. This has never been said. I mean, I got to bring that to you. If this was a number one contenders bout, that is what the kids would call a feature bout. We would have known. This is a little weird that they tried to slip that past us at the 11th hour. I mean, think about this in reverse. You think there's a scenario where Andrade at this weight class wins this fight and goes and fights for the belt next? Because you're wrong. There is no scenario. She could have won by submission. She could have won by decision. She could have won by knockout. She could have won in the second round, the first round, the third. It wouldn't make a goddamn bit of difference. She wasn't fighting for the belt. You want to know why? Because that wasn't a number one contenders match. Now, let's just speak to the idea. Did Yan do enough to get a title shot? You don't have to be in a number one contenders match, just so you understand, to be the one that's going to get title shot next. That's not how it works. Okay. A lot of time knockouts can work against you. And it's an interesting psychology, but we see it all the time, right, guys? Let's go back to the night that Thug Rose was a 2.5 to 1 dog fighting Joanna Champion. Thug Rose stops her and stops her fast. But she stopped her so fast that people dismissed it. As a matter of fact, they rematched it. And Rose was still a 2.5 to 1 dog, which is a very good focal group. So that's a very good piece of data, which shows her victory over Joanna gained a grand total of 0 appreciation from the audience. She made it look easy. They chalked it up to a fluke. So they rematched. Think about poor Rose again. She goes out there with Wei Li. Rose beat Wei Li the first time. There was nothing historically that called for a rematch. And I do mean nothing. There was no controversy and there was no competition. Mike Tyson used to beat people that bad, and Don King would have to explain to the media, and then the commissioners overseeing the fight would have to explain to the audience why they sanctioned it. And they turned and ran and never sanctioned it again. Those guys that Mike beat the hell out of in the first round, they never got rematches, never even discussed. And that's how bad Rose beat Wei Li the first time they threw him in a rematch. Oh, and guess what? Rose was the underdog again. To give you a different example, it's not quite as good in my opinion, but you guys remember Weidman versus Anderson Silva. Now that first fight ended a little bit weird. Remember the leg break? No, it was the knockout. Remember the first fight? Remember the knockout? And it was a little bit weird. It was a little bit weird how Weidman backhanded him and the circumstance leading up to it. And I'm talking like 1 second, 1,001. 1 second of it was a little bit strange. But it was 7.5 minutes in. It was 7.5 minutes of Weidman dominating. Those were all forgotten. The knockout didn't count. It was weird. They rematched him. Weidman, who was a 2.5 to 1 dog the first time, was a 2.5 to 1 dog the second time. And when that back and forth ended, Weidman never lost a round, he never lost a minute, and he never lost a single fight. But there is something about being so dominant so fast that can work against you. I don't know what that psychology is. I'm observing it. I bring it to your attention. So the question of would Yan go and fight for a title? You tell me. It doesn't have to be a number one contenders match. That doesn't have to be ahead of time. I think it's weird. I think it's weird that the announce team at the 11th hour tried to tell us all it was a number one contenders match. There was a press conference yesterday and nobody said anything about it. I think that's strange. I don't think that they're doing it all. I don't think Yan is fighting for the title. That's just an opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think. And I'd like to know if you accept the victory. Do you look at her as somebody that is so dominant she can go out there and stomp out Andrade, who's a very respected, very proven fighter? Do you look at her that way? Or do you think that she caught her and you chalk it up to luck?